Hi, everybody. Welcome. It's so nice to see your smiling faces on this chilly Iowa city night. It's going to get warmer from here on out. Thank you so much for coming tonight to join us to hear from this year's Grant Wood Colony Fellows. We are so very, very lucky to have the Grant Wood Art Colony in Iowa City and on the University of Iowa campus as a partner, for the museum as a partner for the School of Art, Art History, and Design. And it's a real pleasure to welcome three of the fellows this evening to talk about their projects and where they fit within the trajectory of their careers. So the first fellow that I'm going to introduce tonight, oh, by the way, I'm Lauren Lessing. I'm the director of the museum. Sorry, it's the end of a long day, so I forget to introduce myself. The first fellow that I'm introducing tonight is Rush Baker IV. He is this year's Grant Wood Fellow in Painting and Drawing. He embraces uncertainty in his painting practice, blending real and digital elements across diverse media. His energy is conveyed through chaotic, interwoven layers, revealing compositions that address the promise of tomorrow while confronting the flaws of the present. Baker has exhibited nationally and internationally. He holds a BFA from the Cooper Union, where he received the Jack Stewart Memorial Prize for Excellence in Painting, and an MFA from Yale University, where he was awarded the Elizabeth Canfield Hicks Award. In 2023, he was a Trowick Prize finalist and an Artsy Foundation's Prize finalist in 2024. His works are included in the collections of the Studio Museum in Harlem, the Phillips Collection, and the International African American Museum. Please join me in welcoming Rush.
How's everybody doing? Can you all hear me? Awesome. You know, it's funny. When I was coming over here today, I was joking with my girlfriend about how I'm really nervous about public speaking, and I was telling her about how when I was growing up, I grew up in a political family, and my dad served in the Maryland State Legislature, and my mom worked on Capitol Hill as a legislative director, and so they were always giving talks, and they were really engaged. And art was kind of my way of, it was my voice. And so it's kind of ironic that I find myself behind a podium so often now that I'm an artist. I think it's really funny. But thank you all so much for having me. I am honored to be here. That was an amazing introduction. It kind of jumps off from where I want to start with talking about my work. My practice is, sorry about that. The heart of my practice does lie in uncertainty and transformation. I'm inspired by spontaneous combustion, where fragments of clouds and smoke form hybrids that defy clear definition and aim to change our perceptions of the world and offer new insights into our contemporary condition. In my show the summer before coming here to Iowa, Through Lines, at Future Gallery in Berlin, I explored how history is mediated and reenacted and consumed, particularly how sites of conflict are transformed into tourist destinations. Drawing from Civil War reenactments and battlefield-turned tourist sites, I asked viewers to consider their proximity both physically and psychologically to history's repackaged as spectacle. Now, growing up near landscapes that are marked by political power and historical violence, and a lot of times, my work interrogates and investigates how these spaces shape our collective memory. This exhibition collapsed historical cycloramas from the 19th century, battlefield panoramas, essentially, into abstraction. And I use bold, vivid color and play with the interaction and entrapment, complicating the relationship between beauty and violence. My work questions how light functions in painting, particularly in relationship to war, and how light shapes our perception of conflict, and what does that reveal about inherited narratives. Where reenactments place spectators inside the illusion of war, my paintings often position the viewer at its epicenter, destabilizing the sense of perspective. Using digital collage, resin, plaster, concrete, and paint, I create surfaces that oscillate between digital precision and raw physicality. I start with printed grids of collaged images, and then I adhere them with wheat paste onto the canvas, and then I disrupt them with heavy textures that resist clean representation. This interplay mirrors the contradictions in history itself, how it's archived, aestheticized, and contested. While cycloramas traditionally immerse viewers in a controlled historical narrative, my work resists that fixed interpretation, inviting multiple perspectives on the past. This exhibition, Through Lines, was about how we consume history visually, emotionally, intellectually. It explores the tension between attraction, memory, and forgetting, representation, and abstraction. These paintings reimagine historical imagery in ways that challenge its stability, asking what we choose to remember and how those memories shape our present understanding. Let's see if this video works. So here you can see, this is my studio in DC that I built during the pandemic. It was a chance for me to kind of scale up my practice and add more height and light to my space. My practice, aside from political concerns, is formally about building up the surface, creating a patina or tactility, sometimes the illusion of depth in the surfaces. And I'm hoping that, in a way, you can kind of see a little bit of that in these paintings, kind of the push and pull between the high gloss and the matte moments in the paintings. These are things that are like formally really interesting to me. And it's those moments where you kind of glimpse a reflection of yourself in these paintings that I also find really compelling and engaging for the viewer. In my most recent exhibition at Hemphill Artworks in Washington, D.C., titled Landscapes, it takes a different yet related approach to focusing on how historical and political events become embedded in place. The series layers, similarly, Civil War-era iconography, maps, and other printed material, creating surfaces where history and materiality collide. I incorporate imagery from battles such as Charleston, Atlanta, and Gettysburg, reframing these historical sites through abstraction. And hopefully this gives you a sense of the scale of the paintings as well in a pretty large space. For over a decade, my work explored socio-political themes through abstraction, continually reassessing its history, limitations, and potential as a political tool. In Landscapes, I imagine how history manifests physically in the land and how it erodes, persists, and transforms. While Through Lines addressed reenactment and representation, this series focuses on the land as an archive of conflict. I'm often taking historical images, manipulating them digitally, and then kind of repurposing and remixing them on the surface of the canvas. By layering digital, painterly, and sculptural marks, I create compositions that embody historic memory as instability. The contrast between the translucent washes, the solid surfaces, mirror the tension between clarity and erasure. What is seen and what is hidden. In Landscapes, history is not a fixed image, but a shifting terrain, if you will. The work doesn't reconstruct the past, but examines how it lingers and informs our present perceptions. These paintings explore the evolving relationship between abstraction, history, and place, inviting viewers to navigate the complexities of memory. And this piece here, Views from Charleston Harbor, this is the piece that was actually acquired by the Phillips Collection in conjunction with my show at Hemphill Artworks. On the left, you can see it straight on, and then on the right, you can see it hanging up in the Phillips. And what I find really interesting is kind of how the shift in color changes depending on what angle you're looking at the painting from. But this was a really big moment for me because it was my hometown modern art museum, and it was my first acquisition there, so that was amazing. And in conjunction with that show, I did a talk, collaboration between the Phillips and Hemphill around this, and my dad asked a question. He asked why I don't paint more portraits, just so you know. My father has bullied me into painting portraits. I think you have one of Che Guevara, one of John Brown, and then one of my grandfather and my papa, my other grandfather, who were both military service veterans. And those are the only, I think those are the only figurative portraits that I've ever done. He really was saying, why don't you paint more people? And I think that's really funny. I get that question a lot. And I think for me, abstraction, and I always have to defend this, is a tool. And I think that can be a little controversial, but it's a tool I utilize to slow down the read of the work. Abstraction is a tool to slow down things that are already kind of baked into our historical headspace, mind space. And I like using abstraction as a tool to slow that down. And it shifts perspectives. And this idea of shifting perspectives has reinforced my time here in Iowa City, where I've enjoyed quite a lot teaching. I had a chance to work with Laurel, which was phenomenal, co-teaching painting too, working with the undergraduate students, and then working with TJ and grad workshop. Teaching has allowed me to engage with students developing their own visual languages, experimenting with process, and critically considering their relationship to materials and history. I see a couple of my grad students. I'm sorry for these images. It's invigorating to support them and work with the cohort, honestly, as they kind of push beyond the traditional methods and explore their work's perspective. And I really just love this picture of my face. This is my thinking face. I don't know if I'm doing that now, but if I am, I apologize. But this is what they look at when I'm talking, so I'm sorry. I think TJ took that picture. When I think about my influences, and we're wrapping up towards the end here, there are just too many incredible artists that influence my practice and that kind of penetrate what Charlene Van Howell would call the mind space of the studio. And I love her space in Marfa, Texas. I think it's phenomenal. But to name a few, I surround myself with specific reference points. Formally, various artists play outsized roles as influencers, whether it's Jack Whitten in his use of the built surface, and this is a beautiful piece that's at the BMA in Baltimore, or Sam Gilliam in his early use of the stain. You all here at the Stanley have one of the most beautiful Sam Gilliam pieces I've ever seen, Red April, and I come and look at it sometimes on a bad day, and it really just turns everything around. But I'm also interested in his use of the drape, and you can see some of these at the MoMA in New York, where he's kind of thinking about billowing materiality, and I like that idea of the saturation and the shape that's implied. Alma Thomas, in her use of repetitive mark making and motifs, and her sensational use of color, I just find fascinating. And Phil Roth Hines in his pioneering work within geometric abstraction. These are people that live in the studio with me, as much as the sound of NPR blasting or a podcast or whatever going on in the background. These people live and breathe in the studio with me. So during my time here in Iowa, I've been working on smaller works, smaller pieces, works on watercolor and paper, thinking about the formal qualities of paint again. I'm actually having a little bit of fun for the first time in a while. It's been a moment to kind of step away from the printed images and focus on the composition a little bit more and working with a more muted palette that kind of limits my ability to really get heavy-handed with the materiality, but then makes me think about the composition and think about the form. So that's been a really nice experience for me while I'm here. Now, of course, I'm going to break away from that because I started working on some more mixed media pieces, and this is one that's currently in process now that I'm hoping will be like one of the jumping off points for my show here in April. And lastly, I'll show you a quick little video, if this works. That kind of just shows you a little bit of what the surface looks like. It gives you a better idea of kind of the push and pull effect that happens between the resin and the concrete and the pigment that's kind of rubbed into the surface of these. That's me waving. Hi, guys. But it gives you a closer look of kind of what the paintings look like as they're scaled up. And so if you imagine a bigger piece, your whole body's going to be kind of implicated in this landscape. And you have to decide whether or not you want to enter this space or not. And sometimes the answer is no. This is my space in Iowa, and it's awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You ended abruptly. Yeah. I think our next speaker is Matthew Willie Garcia. Is that right? Did I get the order right? Matthew Willie Garcia is the Grant Wood Fellow in Printmaking. Driven by a passion for both science and science fiction, Garcia explores his queer identity and the mysteries that lie within the vast universe. Garcia employs his knowledge of printmaking to explore these themes through color abstraction, the graphic image, and non-representational forms. He earned his BFA in printmaking from the Kansas City Art Institute, followed by an MFA from the University of Kansas. Garcia's artwork has garnered regional and international attention with notable exhibitions, including his participation in the Queer Abstraction Group exhibition at the Nerman Contemporary Museum of Art in Overland Park, Kansas, a wonderful museum if you haven't been there. A work at the Des Moines Art Center as part of the Immersive exhibition, and inclusion in the 2022 On Paper exhibition in Barcelona, Spain. Please join me in welcoming Matthew Willie Garcia.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. I'm Matthew. Move forward. Yeah, thank you for being here tonight. I'm excited to share my work. So the title of my talk right now is Storytelling on a Cosmic Scale. I love titles. I love this kind of lead to an experience. I think it works with my work, and it works in giving talks or explaining any kind of broad concepts that follow my work. But first I want to start with a poem. Quantumly entangled, when defining space, we calculate the infinite expanse, the void, the curvature of space and time. And the distance between you, or between Aries and Aquarius, is like the distance between the Earth and the Sun. But in the quantum realm, space becomes as unimportant as time. And in a moment, the space between you and I becomes infinitely small. Our bodies entangle, the distance intangible, moving, curving, changing, undulating as one. And potential moves from the finite to the infinite. I fold my yesterdays into your tomorrows and dream of our futures past. And when I say forever, I mean infinity plus one. And so I like to start my talks with something that's incredibly vulnerable for me because I rarely share my writing. And also to just set a mood for where my work is coming from. It's coming from the sense of romance. It's coming from the sense of grounding as part of a being in the universe. It's coming from a place of hope for something that is infinite and forever and expansive. And it's also coming from this place of earnestness, to attach myself to every experience with every human I come in contact with. This poem specifically is written for my partner, and I see this poem and this drawing as simultaneously the exact same thing. They're the exact same representation. It's this form that is, these two forms that are infinitely bonded together, that though they separate and come together and separate and come together, they're infinitely entangled as one. And so this poem and this drawing kind of work back and forth, and it's kind of how I develop some of these images. But before I move into actually talking about my work, I want to talk about myself a little bit. So again, my name is Matthew Willie Garcia. I am a queer human. I grew up in the Central Valley of California. This is a picture of me, my brother, and sister in front of Disneyland. I kind of always existed in this like world of fantasy and science fiction and imagination, and I find myself living there more and more as the world starts getting worse and worse. And so I draw from that wealth of experience in this imagined space. And me and my brother and sister have vast memories of us playing pretend and existing in these fantasy worlds together. And I think that as they have children, they get to continue to exist in these worlds with them, and I cultivate this on my own without a child. So it's like it's fun to come back to them and come back to their spaces and see that even though I find myself often in fantasy and science fiction and my imagination, I see them also employing that in the way that they're grounding my nephews and the way that they're raising them and rearing them. And so it's amazing. And this is my dog and my partner. My dog's name is Trivet. My partner's name is Eric. And he's living in Kansas City right now. So a part of me is in Kansas City for this year while I'm here, and a part of me is in California with my siblings while I'm here. And there's this need for me to find home in this place and meet and have community in this space, but also there's a part of me that's there with them and experiencing everything they're experiencing without being there. And it's exciting to like be able to come back and be like, this is the life I've been living away from you, but also you get to celebrate and experience it through my memories and through conversation and coming back in touch. And so my work comes from this space of community and experience, and even these distances that I've built or have moved through. One of my favorite works, and one that I think represents my work more than any other work that seems so disparate from the way I make work, is Wanderer Above a Sea of Fog by David Caspar Friedrich. It is this man standing amongst this vast onlook. It's just this overlook, and it's just this sense of like being dwarfed by nature and an experience. And Friedrich didn't want you to know the identity of the man. He wanted the viewer to be able to experience the same experience that's happening. And I see myself like this person, that I am actively searching for the moment of awe, for vastness, for experience, for a touch with nature, a touch with the universe, a touch with the human, an experience that I can ground myself in. I'm going to keep saying that. Right now it's in my brain to like, I need to be grounded right now in a way, but not physically. It's hard to explain. I'll get into that. And then science fiction has just filled my entire existence. This is Catherine Janeway from the Starship Voyager from Star Trek. I've been watching science fiction, reading science fiction, experience it in any way possible, playing video games. And this is a series that kind of developed my like thinking of how I wanted the future to exist. It's a socialist future where science is praised as the highest form of it, one of the highest forms of experience. It features a vast array of experiences in humanity and alien cultures and experience in who gets to be visible. Like everybody is represented in this series, and it's the first time when I watched the series that I felt represented. It was one of the first times that I saw a Hispanic woman playing a prominent role in a major show that wasn't just like, she wasn't the sexy romance, she wasn't this like object, she's actually somebody who was strong and independent and amazing. And I saw Sobolana Torres, who is part Klingon, she is an alien, but I saw myself in this person, I saw myself in this experience, and it was amazing to see that. And so I decided, I think pretty early, that I was going to dedicate myself to creating this world. I don't know if it was my art, if it was going to be writing or animation or whatever. I knew that I wanted to create a world that people could enter into. And then another thing that's really influenced me is this amazing technology that we have to be able to view space from a distance. The James Webb Telescope has created some incredible or taken some incredible images and renderings of space, and there are some problematic issues with James Webb as a human, but the science that was funded, we'll see where that goes. It was doing amazing, incredible work, and so it's bringing a lot of influence to what I'm doing now, and it's a part of me gets to experience something that is millions of years old and has billions of years old even, and has yet to be like fully understood. And so there's this tangible thing that I can look at, but then there's this vastness of non-understanding that comes with it. Yeah. And so here's one of the first pieces I want to share with you. This is, and from a Nowhere Place, it is about the Big Bang. It's about the beginning of time. There's a poem that goes along with it. Deep distance and the curvature of the universe. A single moment, the first moment. Radiation expelled from a nowhere place. Outside of space and time. Ingredients for a recipe listed as such. 65% oxygen, 18% carbon, 10% hydrogen, 3% nitrogen. A pinch of calcium, phosphorus, potassium, sulfur, chlorine, and magnesium, and a preheated rock in the Goldilocks zone. And Carl Sagan never said billions and billions, for it is too imprecise. And for a moment, 10 billion trillion fireballs raged and turned. We all breathe a collective sigh of relief as the universe cools. We accelerate from the speed to the speed of light and beyond, as the sound of a bell rings from a distance of 13 billion years ago. And this poem and this piece are talking about that one moment, that single moment before all of time started, that single moment before our universe existed, that everything that would make us, would make this Earth, would make our solar system, would make the galaxy, the Milky Way, it all existed in that one moment. So there was one moment where we were fully connected to everything. And that's become the nexus of where my work is coming from. It's this place of like, I want to connect us and the viewers back to that moment, to that experience that we don't have memory of it. Obviously, we were energy and matter, and we had no conscious existence then, but there's part of us there. And so it's important for me when I'm creating my work to think about these moments, these big things, and try to distill them down into these graphic images that are digestible. And you can see my work and think it is simply just an image of an explosion and move on. But there's something deep for me in this. And so I'm creating this universe. Here's another piece, Queering Space and Time. These are Japanese woodblocks. I trained in Japan in 2018 and 2022 to learn this process. And so it's traditional Japanese woodblock printing. And this piece particularly speaks to me and speaks to our current situation. I use the black hole as a way to analogize or create an analogy of queerness, of queer humans existing as these. So we're villainized, we're vilified, we're actively being attacked right now. It feels like there's not a safe place sometimes day to day, and the same thing is kind of thought of as a black hole. It's this like thing that is like seen as this like destructive thing, this thing that's wrong. But a black hole is a life-giving object. Our entire galaxy has a massive black hole that's keeping us together. And I see queerness as that thing, that nexus of experience that literally alters space and time, that literally alters history, that literally changes culture, that has given so much to the world around us. And so no matter what we say about this existence, this object that exists, that's given this like destructive quality, it is life-bringing. And even in the process of destroying something, it gives more life. And that's how I see queerness, and that's what this piece for me is about, is we are actively changing the world around us and influencing us. And if we weren't, they wouldn't be so fucking scared of us. You know? They would not be scared. They wouldn't be trying to delete us from history or from the United States or from whatever, because they know we make change and they want us to regress. And I just can't. I won't be afraid of this. And so when I make this work, I want to be loud. I want to have these experiences be witnessed, even though I'm coming through it through abstraction. Here's another woodblock piece that was based off of the pandemic. This idea of being attracted to our phones or our screens or these things that are distracting us, but often looking at things that are kind of feeding into our fears or anxieties, like when we're scrolling through our phone and we just are looking at every bad thing that's happening in the world, which I do all the time and I need to stop. But this is a view of a nebula that is destroying this solar system, but it's beautiful, but it's destructive, and it's alluring, but in the moments that most of this won't exist except for the black hole that would follow it. Here's another piece that is, so I also do, so from printmaking, I also do large-scale installation, which I'm only showing this one piece. This was the immersive installation or exhibition at the Du Bois Art Center. We hold space and time within us. This is a 10-minute loop. It starts with a big bang, ends with a big crunch, and I wanted it to be larger than the human body. I wanted people who entered into this space to experience themselves in the moment of time that they find themselves there, and to experience this idea of beginning and end. Regardless of how you came about it or how you decided that the piece related to you, there was a clear beginning and a clear end, and it was almost exactly the same. So I wanted people to reorient themselves to that space and to live there. And for me, it was just trying to find a moment of myself in current time, and whatever that looked like. And so the piece runs from again, the beginning of time to end of time. And there's a soundscape that goes with it that is radiation recordings from celestial bodies that NASA has taken. And I created this like soundscape that existed with it to literally pull in our solar system into that space. And so there's this like experience of sound and light and surface and this ever-changing object. So currently, what I'm working on now, I'm shifting gears a lot, and it's wild for me, and I'm loving it, and I'm not hating, but I'm discomforted by some of the decisions I'm making because they're so different from what I normally do. And so I'm working on a series that's tentatively called Calling for the Void. I'm moving away from color completely, which is wild to me. I'm making these big Sumi pieces, and you'll see one that shows a scale with my whole body. Like I'm using the gesture of my body to make these marks, and then I'm going in and digging into and creating these moments of these galaxies and these other spaces. And it's a lot of it for me is like these are moments of worship and groundedness. Like I'm really the work grounds me in a way that my other work hasn't, because I think there's something about the use of Sumi, the use of black and white, the use of simple contrast that is making me focus more on where I'm at. Like I'm being very present with these objects. Usually when I'm making a print, I'm always living in the future of what the print's gonna look like. These, I'm actively living with them and experiencing them as I make them. And so the gesture is made quickly. It usually takes me about 30 to 40 minutes to make the painted piece, and then I go in and spend weeks on the details. And here's another piece. Again, this one I just splattered. I kind of let the ink do what it wanted to do, and then I came in and responded to this. And again, there's this like moment of spirituality that I didn't know I was missing, or that I wanted. Because I come from a Christian background, full-on atheist. Like I have said this many, many times. I had a very traumatic Christian experience. If you ever want to talk about it, I will talk about it, but I won't talk about it here. But I ran hard from that life. And now I'm finding myself back in this like need for something, and I'm not sure what it is. And I think it's just like I need to connect to something bigger than myself. So I'm making these images that are bigger than the body, or that exist in a larger scale. So this is about 8 foot on the wall and about 2 foot on the ground. And so again, I'm letting gravity play with me too. I'm letting gravity as I paint on the wall. And I'm just finding these moments where I am having communion with these pieces, you know? It's weird. It's so strange. I just don't I'm so in the future. Like I usually design my image, I make my matrix, and I print my print, but my brain is always on that future print that's gonna happen, and rarely in the moment. Usually I'm thinking about something else, watching a TV show, listening to a podcast. Here's another piece, and this is one of my favorite pieces right now. It is this communal moment between something bigger and something more representational. I wanted it to feel alien. I wanted it to feel other. But there's this moment. I've been thinking about the Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel, David and God, or Adam and God's finger almost touching. And that moment at the top is kind of how I view this piece. Like, this is us reaching to something larger. But also kind of, it feels like there's something uncomfortable for me about this piece. Yeah. And then here's another big Sumi drawing, and this piece is talking, again, coming back to some of the familiar concepts about the beginning of time, about the big crunch, and about this like kind of infinite experience of destruction and creation. Yeah. And that's it. So thank you, everybody. And I'll leave you with this quote from one of my favorite authors. All you really need to know for the moment is that the universe is a lot more complicated than you might think, even if you start from the position of thinking it's pretty damn complicated to begin with. Okay, thank you.
I think I really needed this tonight. Our next speaker is Lyndsey Scott. Lyndsey Scott is the Grant Wood Fellow in Interdisciplinary Performance. She is a multimedia artist, song leader, songwriter, and ritualist committed to exploring community singing as a technology of belonging and a strategy for mutual liberation. Her initial studies in visual art focused on painting, and she graduated with a BFA from the University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana. She applied her studies in St. Louis, Missouri, as a community art training fellow, where she explored participatory art as a catalyst for collective effervescence in a variety of sites. Her reputation for playful and potent engagement earned recognition, including the Grand Center Visionary Artist Award, Critical Mass for the Art Stimulus, and the 52nd City Kick-Ass Award. She founded a small trauma-informed yoga studio in her rural hometown, hosted affinity groups for racial healing, facilitated a garden project for formerly incarcerated men, taught art at a juvenile detention center, and instigated month-long bike service treks with the Biking Superheroes. Along this healing journey, she discovered the power of collective singing. Scott composes and records mindful mantra music with a beat for the national and international community singing movement, including the albums Well Held, 2022, and Prodigal Daughter, 2024. Please join me in welcoming Lyndsey Scott.
How y'all doing tonight?
Who's here? Let's see. Hi. Thank you for coming here tonight. Thank you for bringing your energy to come and be with us. Thank you, Rush and Matthew, always for the inspiration. Whenever I listen to them, I really miss painting. Let's see. How do we do this? There we go. Have you seen reels in your nighttime scrolling habit of elders at nursing homes? Maybe their eyes are a little clouded, maybe they're a little hunched, and they're pretty gone. But then someone brings one of their songs into the realm, and they sort of like grow a little taller, and their eyes sort of clear, and there's like absence turns to presence. Has anybody ever seen one of those? To me, this is what collective singing feels like in this time of cultural amnesia. Mother Teresa says, if we don't have peace, it's because we've forgotten that we belong to each other. I find that song is a balm in these hard times and a doorway to remembering stuff we've just forgotten. Nobody knew how to teach it to us, and it's not what we share anymore. Our elder, Lawrence Cole, big tall man, he calls singing together a technology of belonging. So now's the moment of our presentation where you either get like really excited or you get really annoyed at me. But I love you either way. You get to lean in and sing, or you get to be like, and that's great. So when I go like this, I'm going to sing a line. When I go like this, you want me to sing. I'm borrowing lyrics from Leonard Cohen. I borrowed them from Rumi. Anybody in the house will be boxing me? Okay. Let's crack in everything. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light, that's how the light gets in. Well, that's how the light, that's how the light gets in. 3 times is the time, we're gonna take it up a notch. Forget your perfect offering. Forget your perfect offering. Just sing the song that you can sing. Just sing the song that you can sing. There is a crack in everything. There is a crack in everything. But that's how the light, that's how the light gets in. Well, that's how the light, that's how the light gets in. So it's just like that. It's real simple, humble. It's not because we're trained or because we sound great. It's because we're human and we have voices. And each of our voices coming together in real time, raw with mistakes, not hiding behind screens. I think this is a muscle that we get to practice to get where we're going. A few days ago, I didn't take the picture, but this is what it's of. I was at a stoplight on Riverside, and there was just this flock of birds, like a black, undulating, moving river as far as I could see in either direction. And because of how things are, I just felt it. It reached me. Activist and author of Emergent Strategy, Adrienne Marie Brown writes, emergence is what the sum of parts, emergence is beyond what the sum of its parts could even imagine. And love is how humans flock. Love is how we murmurate. And when we sing, we flock. We cute. When we sing, we become part of a collective body that's learning how to listen and turn and soar and move and sync. So I'm a student of this. I study how singing together can support emergence. I study how singing together can support us to love. I study how singing together is an ancient yet very accessible technology for liberation. And this movement that I'm part of, the community singing movement, it has its roots in the freedom singers of the civil rights. It has its roots in every fire that all of our ancestors gathered around to tell stories and drum and make sound. In some ways, similar to choirs, but different in that we gather in a circle. So it's real weird for me to be in front of y'all. And we don't have paper. We're never looking down. On purpose, it's an oral tradition to practice this mere neuron muscle. Often intergenerational, and we're often catching songs that we write. And so it's sort of like we're creating this story that we're living in together. Last time, if you were at the last talk, I talked about Widow Lyndsey. This is Widow Lyndsey. I took you on a breadcrumb tour from the journey from pre-med into performance art and activism into a very long healing cave hermit lifetime, into running a small social justice yoga studio. And in retrospect, when I looked at all those things, each step, each moment was a part of gathering the tools that I now carry as a ritualist. And I like to say that ritual, it's like the original multimedia art, you know? It was like, we got a little bit of this, we got a little of this, we got a little of this. The thread that I love between all of our work is like, I think we're all time travelers. We love to like bend space and time. But tonight I want to actually zoom in and share with you my spring project for Grant Wood. It's called Songlines. I'm very excited about it. And I want to share with you kind of like I'm a messy chef and I'm just laying on the counter all the ingredients. The ingredients are the questions that are guiding me. So that's how I want to spend our time together tonight. This is a little doodle of some lyrics, first track of my last album. I'm very interested in what are the nervous system habits that we need to be cultivating as a species to do something other than wage war. How do we access and practice these states of being together regularly with people outside our family? I don't have to tell you, dominant energies of fear, anxiety, overwhelm, loneliness, cynicism, intolerance are all turned up right now, threat level on purpose. These energies constrict us. Physiologically, they separate us, we shrink, and we can't access our creativity or really feel for each other when we're in this state. And so when we sing, often we loosen up a little bit. We're breathing. Our vagus nerve is like, yeah. And we're connecting. Scientists who like to study things and put nodes on us tell us that our heartbeats actually sync up when we sing together. I'm super interested in what fuels us to stay committed to the gargantuan work of systemic change for the long haul, for our children's, where it's not gonna happen in our lifetime necessarily, but how do we plant the trees? These are some of my teachers, Portia and Aaron, founders of Holistic Resistance, which is an organization in Southern California with a vision of ending white supremacy through intimacy with each other and intimacy with the earth. I painted this banner to illustrate their motto, staying creative while taking on the impossible, and to christen their Grief to Action camp, where we all built clay domes for people of the global majority to be supported in grief. And the whole time, we're singing while we're building, we're singing while we're cooking, we're singing while we're grieving, we're singing while we're dreaming. It's sort of the glue that holds it all together. Through this experience and so many experiences, I know that singing is a wellspring of resilience. You walk in the door not knowing, and you keep going. There's a reason why every night during the bus boycott they got together and they sang for hours. There's a reason. I'm very interested in how can song reorient us towards direct relationship with land, which is where we all come from. How can song help us relate more intimately and directly to the places we go and the places that we call home? So for the past 3 years, I've been living inside this inquiry. When I tour, I'm not performing, I'm singing with people in settings for certain intentions. And so I get to get down in an organization, and sometimes it's more like a festival site, sometimes it's more like a ritual site. This particular moment, I was invited to travel with the Youth Initiative High School, which is a Waldorf high school in Viroqua, Wisconsin. They go every year and spend the first week of school together on land. And in this particular year, they were focusing on learning how to practice ritual, and they were all practicing with each other. And so in this moment, I'm teaching them my water song, and we get to hang out and serenade Gitsi Gumi. Some of y'all were here at this moment. I'm interested in how song can help us get one click closer from stranger to neighbor. During sings, we leave space for intentional meeting. So over time, song communities often grow into low-key mutual aid networks. I teach a course at Voxman called Community Singing as Collective Power. And last semester, our class designed a ritual together to meet the anxiety we were feeling about Election Day. And what we decided to do was to paint this sign together. We laid it out on the floor of Stark Opera Studio, and we painted and we sang, and we infused our dreams, what we choose to bring in the face of everything, into the banner, and then we invited our community to come and sing with us. It was beautiful. A lot of students taught songs for the first time, and there was a good feeling in the room. Singing for sanity. I'm interested in where song wants to travel. Song is not bound by space or time. How can song extend care beyond the parameters of my body? So this is a group of activists aged 20 to 70 who got together to presence our care for our family, incarcerated family at the Champaign County Jail during a hunger strike. They were trying to get our attention outside about some of the oppression that was happening inside, and we just wanted to be present in a way that was more intimate than a protest. I'm interested in catching songs that make us smarter when they get stuck in our heads. What are the earworms that support us to live the ways we want to live? So like I said, I don't perform, but I do compose. We don't call it composing in our tradition. We call it catching songs, because they live in a place and you just say. This song I co-wrote with incarcerated guitarist Anthony Rod. It's an anthem for the abolition of prison industrial complex, and it's sung all over the states, in the streets, it's sung in grief rituals, and it repeats the refrain of Mariama Kamba's book, We Do This Till We Free Us. It is an earworm that breeds fierce determination. And finally, I'm so interested in how the earth herself sings and how our song can be a direct offering in this conversation. So I love spending time out on the land. One of my favorite things about moving here is figuring out where to go. So glad we live close to Hickory Hill. Really love Kent Park. I love living next to a river. I have a tree that I go visit right across from the Hansher, the one that goes like this. You know that one? And I'm learning from indigenous traditions, so many traditions, the Icaro tradition in particular right now. I'm a little bit obsessed with what I can find out about song lines, dreaming tracks, song spirals. They're called different things. In Australian Aboriginal culture, any attempts to like describe them gets completely flattened in language because they are multidimensional in a way that I think exceeds Western consciousness ability to grok at all. They're described as navigational pathways that are woven with song and story that encode geographical, mythological, cultural knowledge backwards and forwards in time. Super science fiction, yeah. So I'm reading these two books currently. The one on the right, Song Lines, is written by Bruce Chatwin, so European male gaze, attempting to understand from the outside in. Like, he had like 5 days in person, but he wrote this whole book about it. Cool. It's witty, it's great. He's very interested in the wanderer. And the book on the left is written by the Gaiwu group of Aboriginal women that lives inside this tradition, is working with a number of professors to translate and write their wisdom. So I'm peeking in with Bruce from this outsider perspective. At the same time, I'm doing my best to just like soften my mind and hear at the feet of these elders. And I want to share their words with you. I might cry because I just feel it so much right now. So they use the word country in a way that we don't use. So just let that loosen. Country is the song spirals. Country has awareness. It knows us. It is home and land, but more than that. It is seas and waters, the rocks and the soils, the animals, the winds, the people too. It is the connection between those beings and their dreams and their emotions and their languages and their law. Country is the way humans and non-humans co-become. The way we emerge together, have always emerged together, will always emerge together. It's all the feelings, the songs, the ceremonies, the things we cannot understand and we cannot touch, the things that go beyond us and anchor us in eternity in the infinite cycles of kinship, sharing, responsibility. Country is the way we mix and merge, the way we are different and yet become part of each other. It is the messages, languages, and communications from all beings to all beings. Country is the song spirals. So my goal this spring is to experiment the best I can in my current consciousness here now, Iowa City, with these inquiries and to weave them together into a way of being together. So I'm offering a series of song circles from now until May, every other Sunday, with stops at very beloved sites that hold a particular vision or way of being together in Iowa City. They're the places when I landed here and I'm like, where do I go? And people said these places, they're weaving and they're catalyzing, they're like holding some picture of the becoming of this place. And of course it's not a full list of those places, but they're places that I got to connect. And at each site, we're going to sing in a way that sort of like wraps around and infuses some aspect of the aliveness of this place with song. So February 2nd, last Sunday, we were at RISVIC. We filled the house and we sang for resilience. RISVIC is Resilient Sustainable Futures for Iowa City. February 16th, we'll be singing at Sacred Collective. I'll co-hold this space with Anna Bladel. Sacred Collective is on Lynn Street. It's a home for spiritual misfits, and we'll be singing for queer love. At March 2nd, we'll be at PS1 Close House, singing for the ways that we weave the web and create networks of care and mutual aid. March 16th, this just in, we'll be singing at City Hall with the theater kids. March 30th, we'll be right here, but we won't be in chairs like this. We'll be in a circle, and we'll be singing for Creative Cross-Pollination. April 13th, we'll be at Johnson County Historic Poor Farm singing for Land Connection. April 27th, we'll be at the Bike Library, or maybe biking around. It might be a moving musical. We don't know yet, but we'll be singing for People Power. And May 4th, we're going to swirl it all together into a final sing at Old Brick. And you are invited. There, if you want to, you click that little link. Do I have a mouse here? No, probably not. Click that little link that says sign up here if you want to come. You can come to one, you can come to all of them. But you're very invited to come and bring your voice and meet your neighbors. I hope that it grows like a sonic snowball. I kind of see it in that way over the next 3 months. My hope is that it seeds new connections, taking on a life of its own, nourishing us and nourishing the places where we live. I'm not confused about the enormity of the challenges that we're facing right now, but neither am I confused about the power that we have access to when we come together. So we're going to close with a little bitty song. I'll take this so I don't have to go back up. Oh, cuter slide. We are going to a place where music. We are going to a place where music falls and fills up every page. Falls and fills up every page. Though it might be a long time, I know it's gonna be alright. And though it might be a long time, I know it's gonna be alright. 'Cause we've already started to sing. 'Cause we've already started to sing.
So if you want to get another drink or a cookie, do that. And then in a second, we're going to turn on the lights. We're going to reconvene up here, and we're just going to talk. So, and there'll be time for the everyone in the community here to ask questions. But, you know, this is the time to, like, you know, get another cookie. We have so many cookies. I'm not at all surprised that the three of you are clearly so close, because your work just, there's so much synergy between the work you're doing. It's so different, and yet these themes and connections just emerge. So I have way more questions than I probably will have time to ask, and I want to leave opportunities for the audience to ask questions as well. But I will dive right in by asking, I want to hear each of you talk a bit about, because transformation is a theme in all of your work. How does the art that you make transform you? And how do you hope it will transform others? Grab a mic so that we have this for, we're also recording this.
Are these on? Yeah.
They're on.
They're on. Okay. Well, I was going to say, like, the one thing that I think Lyndsey brought up is that we're all kind of time travelers in the way that we think about our practice. So we think about the way that we think about and approach art. I think for me, I think about transformation in a couple different ways. Like, there's the conceptual framework around the work, where I'm thinking about, like, the history of spaces and thinking about how they're taught to us, how they're remembered, whether they're true or not, or whether they're open to interpretation or reinterpretation. And I think about transformation in a way that I kind of take those histories, take the history and the ephemera of that era, and then change it or augment it in some way. I feel like I'm not only going back in time, but I'm also augmenting time, like Marty McFly. I'm going back and, like, accidentally picking up the almanac and, like, changing us into, like, another parallel universe. So I apologize for the last election. But but in all seriousness, I think about transformation in that way. I think about it in kind of two ways, like the kind of physical act of transforming the object and the image that I'm making, and then also the way that I'm thinking about it conceptually in my practice. And I think there's a through line in our practices on that front.
For me, I think the change that comes with me is like, it's really putting me in the present. Like my work puts me in the present when I'm making it. And I want that to both be true for the viewer, but I also want it to be untrue. I want us to not only be present, but realize that time is a construct that we have developed to understand the like existence we have right now, and that we're kind of attached to all of it. And so there's this deep desire for me, and I struggle to find it too, that I can connect with that like eternity existence of where we came from, where we started, not only historically, but like on the cosmic scale. Like we're tethered to everything that we're a part of. Like we are part of our entire world. That's why we are actively destroying it, because everything we do impacts the world around us. So it's like and I think that we are so distant from that idea that we are somehow singular in this moment, and this is our moment right now, but it's not. It's like it's all of our moment. It's all of humanity's moment. Like it's a blip in time, but it's all of the universe's moment. Like we collectively exist together and exist as part of the universe. So it's like I want that to happen when people interact with my work, and I think that as it gets bigger, I think maybe that will start to happen. My work has been relatively small, except for my installation. So yeah, I want to also feel that, because I don't always feel that. I feel like a singular being in this maelstrom, and it's not just me here. Yeah.
Singular being in a maelstrom. Maelstrom. I haven't said that word in a long time. Yeah, deeply relating to what you are saying. There's something about the me and we that I think is really what activates when we sing together around transformation. Like when I went to college way back so long ago, like we didn't have cell phones, and so we like chatted, we looked each other in the face, and it's like so weird. I'm like, wow. We're experimenting with ourselves. Like we're actively experimenting with ourselves as mammals. Mammals did not evolve with craned necks downward looking at a screen. Like we evolved, looking at our mother's faces and squishing up our faces. And so we survive, right? We're fine. I'm fine. I'm just like scrolling for an hour. I'm fine, And so something happens when people come to song circles. Like a lot of times the first time there's like hella awkwardness and a lot of like closedness. And then like I'm thinking of, I did a really weird song circle at the IMU during finals week. It was great. And one of those students came to my class, and it was so powerful. She enrolled in my class because of what happened. Like she was like all the way gone and inward. And by the end, it's like tears streaming, wet eyes. Because I think a lot of times we're like, oh, my people, my family, but like, we don't get to do that, and so we keep it all inside. Kids don't do that. They're like licking each other's faces in the post office, right? Like we're that, but then we keep everything so locked in. Oh, I didn't even see you. And so there's like this feeling of like recognition that almost hurts when we get it. And that transforms me, because all the stuff I think I have to carry by myself, I don't. So yeah, that's how I think that transformation inward and outward happens in circles.
You said something that I was really struck by right at the beginning of your talk. You said, you talked about living in an age of cultural amnesia. And it's a really powerful statement. All of you are engaging with history with your work. I think, in some ways that are very right there, and in other ways that are a little more removed. And maybe could you all talk a little bit more about that, how you engage with history in your work and what you hope to achieve? How are you hoping to cure our cultural amnesia, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Really good questions.
Are we gonna do this thing where we keep going in line? Or we're gonna keep keep a structure to this?
Yeah, structure.
I don't know if I like that, but okay. How do we engage with history? I mean, I don't know. It's kind of all I think about. I I mentioned earlier that I grew up in a really political family, and my father was a history major in college, and so a big Civil War buff. I got dragged around to all these battlefield sites. I grew up in the outskirts of D.C., and so all these historic sites were always there, and just very salient. And I remember not enjoying it when I was a kid, but then as I got older, I was like, what is this? Like, what are we doing? Why are we here? Like, what is the story that's being told here, and what are we glorifying? And so for me, I think history is important because I think it's important to go back and remember the facts of that space, the facts of that land. I have a different experience in the Maryland area going to plantations, where people get married. They're these beautiful spaces. And I go there and I look at them and I'm like, oh, these are stunning, but I know that they were forced labor camps, right? And so like my experience with that physical space in the contemporary is kind of mediated by the facts of what I know of that history. And so when I go and I travel and I look at these spaces, I feel that history. It's haunting. It's hard for me to enjoy myself in the way that others might. There's an empathetic through line through time that channels through me. And I think you kind of can relate to this, or both of you can. And so I think about history in that way. It's a very physical, visceral reaction to space. And I think that channels through the way I think about my artistic practice and the way I think about history and how it's written and who has the power to tell that story, who has the power to erase that story. And I think within my own practice, so much of that is about repropositioning what that means, and what am I choosing to allow the viewer to see, and what am I choosing to hide? And when I'm hiding it, am I hiding it through a reflective surface where you have to look at yourself and engage with that work with yourself implicated, or are you looking through it? And so these are things that I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about history.
For me, I am thinking about a lot of history, and it's like I'm trying to distill the history of time for us for some reason. I don't know why I decided to chase after something so broad and so big. But it's like I also want to just move the idea of importance of our self. We become, once we see this broader history of how the universe existed, or how the little, again, I'm going to repeat myself, but the blip of the moment that we exist right now, and the blip of human history in the expanse of billions of years, things start to become a little less important, even though they are very important, and our existence right now is very important, and our survival is very important, but we will fight and exist. But there's also this thing that's maybe if we can just pull back and think about how small we are right now, that we can see we're all small together. And we can use that to support each other, because we just have each other right now. Right now, that's it. History does exist. It has affected everything we've done. But right now in this moment, we have each other, and that's all we get. We get maybe 100 years if we're lucky, And so it's how do we find our place with each other in that, and fight for each other, care for each other, commune with each other, be with each other, and just have experiences that are genuine and real. Yeah.
Super into your questions. These are really fun. Ask us about our favorite things. So when I was a visual artist, I liked collecting things that brought me into the moment. Sometimes I collected dried worms and made sculptures from them. Sometimes I collected traffic cones that were no longer being used to alert human, they were just albinos, and I would make, they had lost their orange. And I still, because I can't stop, have a collection of orange dots, which are the you are here in the moment. I've always been fascinated with the now and what becomes that portal to there is no other time. My favorite way to imagine time is that this is the only thing, and all things present and future are also now in other dimensions. How does that affect song circles? Well, I think that we draw two things I want to say. One is we are living inside the histories we inherited in our DNA, right? And so as a person of European colonizer lineage, I'm wrestling with what is my work based in that inheritance in time, and how do I access what is also bountiful and beautiful in my lineage. And so I think about time as how I am an extension of my ancestors. I would say there's a lot of learning right now in the song community, as we seek to remember how to hold ritual. We're definitely thinking about ancestral inheritance and lineages that are woven within our own beings. And so that's one way that I operate in time, not necessarily in my university practice. When I'm not here, I'm in Earthkeeper's Wisdom School. I hold space as a ritualist there. In our class, we're going to have one of my favorite assignments is, so first we establish what a circle is and how do we hold circle, what is the technology of a circle, and then we look at what is the technology of a song. And then after that's established, then we look in time, space, and the students all go and study a moment in liberation history. And they find this rabbit hole and go down in it, the songs and the people and what they were engaging, and they bring it back and they teach us. And that is one of my favorite moments because that's the resilience that we get to draw from.
That's amazing answers. So I'm going to switch to a practical question, and then we'll go back into the metaphysical. What do you need to make your work? Before you produce as artists, what do you need? Do you, in terms of space, in terms of what you do for yourself to put yourself in that creative space, and are you finding it here?
I can start so we can break up the line.
I was going to say the first one who got here should go first.
So for me, I am an extrovert. I love humans. I love spending time with people. I need that energy of communion with friends and family and people around me, to be able to draw back and spend an entire evening in my studio. So I have to have that energy. I have to know that I'm gonna be with people at some point. But then also I just need time, just time to be in my studio. I often tell my students that the best time spent in studio is just sitting and thinking and just being in the studio. I think we don't think enough in our practices day to day. I think we spend too much time on our phones and watching stuff, listening to stuff. And I think that my favorite moments are when I can just sit in my studio, maybe staring at some of my work, maybe staring at a wall, maybe staring out a window. But there's something that develops in those moments, and I think they're important. So communion and then time alone to think, which feels separate, but are both important.
Yeah, I think actually that's a really good point. I was thinking about the amount of time alone that I'm spending since I've been here, and I feel like I've been purposefully spending a lot more time alone in the studio space, in a way that I don't do when I'm back home in DC. I grew up there, have a lot of family there. My studio can become a hangout spot very quickly. The football game will be on and people are like, hey, can we come watch in your studio? Your studio's cool. I'm like, no, man, you cannot. So this for me, when I even applied to this program, TJ, who was a classmate of mine in grad school, was posting about it, and I emailed her and asked her and said, hey, what's this program like? And she said, it's perfect to find time and space to think and breathe, which I think Matthew touched on, and I've definitely found that since I've been here. And I think it's affected the way that I'm thinking about my work. I know we both have a big digital footprint in the way that we think about building up the conceptual framework around our paintings and our work and our prints. And since I've been here, I've been more in tune to the material and the paint and the landscape around me, and a little less in front of my screen. And so I think that that's been kind of changing the way that I'm thinking about the landscape, thinking about the way that I'm building up the image. And so it's been good in that way. And now I'm curious to see. It's kind of put up or shut up time because our shows are coming up in April, and we'll see how much that change actually kind of sticks through to the end. But I think it's been just a really good time for not only rest, but time for reflection in the studio. And one thing that I need in any space is height and light, and I definitely have that here at Grantwood and at University of Iowa, and so I've been really appreciative of that. So just the physical infrastructure that was provided, and now on top of the time for reflection. So it's been great.
I need time in nature. And like I said, I'm really enjoying finding it. I'm from the Midwest, so I find the Midwest landscape incredibly beautiful. I need inspiration, like to feel people working creatively and culturally in ways that are exciting for me. And I've been, meeting people that I find very interesting and getting to go to the Hancher a lot and to shows a lot, which feels good. I'm small town and I actually love a lot of quiet, so this feels like a city to me, which is fun. I need people to sing with who are willing to like be vulnerable and open their hearts and have experiences, and I'm having wonderful experiences singing with people all over the city. Part of why I was interested in coming here was because there's a really strong community song family here that when I was touring through, I would always come through and hang and get to know people. And I don't know if Mary Cohen is still here. I think she left, but Professor Mary Cohen is who actually sent this opportunity and was like, "Are you interested in this?" So, yeah, I'm finding a lot of really wonderful community and space. It's really fun to have, like, I love our neighborhood and the Grantwood home that I'm in. I have been thinking about salon and like spaces that aren't public, but they're spacious enough. And during the pandemic, we used to have like wonderful dinner parties and house theater, and so much in my life changed. All of our lives changed, and so having a beautiful home to gather in and have parties in has been really fun to remember what salon used to be like. In my 20s, we did so much creating in our homes, so that's been also really fun. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to pull you back into the philosophical, the metaphysical. Edmund Burke, formulated these concepts almost 300 years ago of the sublime and the beautiful. And, while there's much beauty in all of your art, I'm really struck by how you are all drawn to the sublime. And just a little reminder of what the Burkean sublime is for those of you who haven't read that treatise in a few days. Burke considered the sublime to be an experience that pulls you out of your body, either through terror or awe. A great example is Caspar David Friedrich's, The Wanderer Above the Sea of Clouds, where that figure and we vicariously are having a sublime experience by being really high up, and just, it's what Freud would later call an oceanic experience. What draws you to that, all three of you, and why do we need it in this moment?
I was going to say, I think the big thing for me, or that I think about, is the way the viewer's interpreting the work. I often talk about my paintings as windows into another delineated space or another world, and you have to choose whether or not you want to engage or enter with that space. And so I think that there's almost an attractiveness to the sublime, whether it's awe or terror. So you're staring at a fire or volcanic eruption, or you're staring at waves crashing against the rocks. It's still awe-inspiring despite your relationship to that visual. And so I think in my practice, I think about the smallness of all of us in that space. Like when I'm thinking about Gettysburg, for example, I'm thinking about how vast that field was, how vast the landscape is where all of that blood was shed, and what it looks like now compared to what it looked like on the day or the week that the event took place. And I think it just puts everything in perspective for me as the artist, and I'm hoping that it forces the viewer to kind of like re-engage with that history, re-engage with that landscape, re-engage with their smallness in the part of this entire human existence and experience. And I think if my work does that even a little bit, it's successful. But I think it's that attempt to try to remind myself and remind the viewer of the smallness, but also how important and integral you still are, even though we are so small and a part of a larger ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, same. Like I engage with Sublime like very aggressively. I think that is like becomes like a part of like my experience with the work too. I tend to see them, especially these bigger pieces, as almost like entities that we're engaging with, that we're having a moment with, and so it's just like I want them to feel immersive and make the viewer feel small, so that they can see a perspective outside of themselves. Like I think that's my biggest. Like I'm thinking about these things out loud, because I'm like not sure that I've fully resolved it, especially the new work, like where I'm going. But yeah, this like idea of being smaller and being meek in the face of something that's bigger. And I mean, it's not God, but maybe it is, and maybe it's the universe, and maybe it's something else. I don't know. It's just like this idea of fear and awe and perspective are so important to my work. And fear not in a like harmful or aggressive way, but in this like unknowing nature of space. And yeah.
So the phrase cultural amnesia comes from author Francis Weller, who's one of my teachers around grief. And Weller talks about amnesia and anesthesia as part of how we cope, right? We numb it down. Like, it's too much to feel. You can't scroll and then go to bed unless you're numb, right? You have to survive what's happening, because there's so much to feel. There's so much intensity of suffering that we can reach through the media. And so most of our response to survive is to numb. And yet, often to transform or to heal, we have to learn to feel. And so singing opens our hearts, and then we feel everything more. We often talk about the relationship of grief to love. Like, you grieve because you loved a lot. And then when we can feel it all, it becomes overwhelming. But when we feel it together, it becomes beautiful. We alchemize it. Like, some of the most beautiful moments in my life are in grief ritual, when we are holding the most terrifying things that have ever happened to us, but all of a sudden our attention and our love, it like alchemizes it, and we're not holding it alone, and it is just Earth School. Welcome to Earth. Earth eats hearts. Hello, welcome. And so, like, surrendering to the immensity becomes the beauty of being here. One of the last tours I did was called Bandwidth, baby. It's just like, we can go up, we can go down, and then we get to know how big we are inside.
Amazing answers. I could just keep talking to you forever, but I know that there are tons of questions in the audience, so I'm going to give up the mic at this point and ask your questions of these three brilliant artists. Come on, jump in there.
Don't be shy.
You have questions?
Or I'll make you sing again.
And I could ask some more.
You have a question?
I
Okay.
want to ask it. I kind of know what you're thinking. This is for Lyndsey. I'll just preface it. Say in 2009, I had a really transformative experience by watching a video, and 11,000 people showed up in Trafalgar Square in London. And they came it was lunchtime, from all around the businesses, and they were given microphones, and there was a mass sing-along. And I guess it went for a half an hour, 11,000 people. And you could see, and Pink was there, and a lot of others were there. And it was a karaoke, there was a massive karaoke. And you could see the separation and isolation in the inner city office workers' hearts to profound joy and connection, and the reduction of social space. So, and I have followed unofficially and occasionally over the last 15 years the growth of this mass singing movement through popular music. So I love mass singing in football matches in Europe, in football. But there's something, choir in Toronto, and pub choir in Brisbane, Australia. Hamburg singt in Germany. So there's all this kind of mass singing of popular music, everything from ABBA and Coldplay, that is transformative, that brings thousands and thousands together. So when I saw your website, I was really blown away. 3 weeks ago, it was complete. And I wondered if you think about interfacing, probably not yet, but that is my commitment over the coming decade regarding Iowa City and more. Do you ever think about or track it, how to interface with the phenomenon of mass pop singing that brings thousands together?
Baby steps, baby steps, baby steps. So here we are, like Risvik was like 30, and if you all want to hold an image with me, my hope is that there's at least 200 of us singing at the big sing. We can't blow our gaskets right away. We just got to build up to it. But I did hang out, so I was funded by Grant Wood to go to Brazil in January and learn with Música do Círculo, which is improvisational body percussion and sounding. And I was super stoked to hang out there with Matt Goldstein, who is the founder and director of Gaia Music Collective in New York, which is very similar to the projects that you're speaking about. They're doing one-day choir projects, but they're also doing more traditional song circles. They're doing improv, and they're gathering hundreds and hundreds of people together. So I dream of it, and I just like to be right on the step where I am, and I think what you're pointing to, something changes in our experience when we get to have this, like, resting back into so many that counters the isolation that we experience. So I'm here for it. Let's go for 200, and then we'll dream from there. You know what I'm saying? Okay.
Plus the phenomenon of masses knowing the song.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
ABBA or like
Yeah.
Coldplay. So many know it. So
Yeah.
that has an electrifying effect on the
Yeah.
heart.
Yes. Anthems.
I hope you stay.
I'm definitely thinking about it.
Any other questions? You over there? There you go.
Well, this is for all of you. I don't know if it's a question. Well, yeah. Do you feel you had like a blue face, kind of Picasso's blue face, like a sad face in your artwork? That, I don't know, did you feel like you had to take a little steps to get to the artwork you are doing right now?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, not to jump in. Yeah? Okay, cool. I think about my work in cycles in a lot of different ways, but I definitely think, to backtrack a little bit, I went to a visual performing arts high school. And so when we were there, being an excellent draftsman was like a big deal. Like if you saw a cup, you could draw the cup really well, you were the best artist. You put a mirror in front of your face, you do a self-portrait, best artist. And so I got into Cooper Union, which is a really small conceptual school in New York. They let in 60 students, and you get in for free. And when you first get there, they say no bunnies. And what they mean by that is you cannot bring anything into crit that looks like anything in the real world. 2DD, 3DD, color theory. If you make anything that looks like anything, you fail. And I'm like, wait, this is my bread and butter. Like, what are we doing here? And so I basically had to unlearn all this foundational stuff that I had learned to get into this program. And then from there, had to rebuild my practice. And from there, even going to grad school, I went into grad school thinking I had this entire system in place. And the professors basically deconstructed that very quickly. It was a blowing up of like something that I felt very comfortable in. It was a blowing up of my comfort zone. And I had to kind of rebuild my practice from the ashes of that experience. And I think it was really traumatic for me at the time, but in the long run, it taught me some really valuable lessons about being able to move on from processes, or sometimes go back and revisit processes. And these things come in cycles. And so, you have highs, you have lows, just like you do in life. It happens in your art cycle. And I think for me, I've gone through a few phases. I feel like I'm hitting a little bit of a stride right now, but I'm sure it'll all blow up at some point, and then I'll figure it out again. But definitely going through phases in terms of the way the work presents, and then also the way that I'm thinking about the work and the way I'm thinking about image and object making. Does that answer your question? Cool.
For me, my work is always in flux. I feel like I'm always like just unsettled with everything I'm doing at every given moment. And I think it's just because I have ADHD, so nothing satisfies that like itch back there. But yeah, I mean, like from undergrad to grad school, my work completely shifted. And then coming here too, I'm like in the middle of a giant shift. And so it was like I was talking to somebody and saying that I started this work thinking it might not exist anywhere else but in my studio. And I was talking to Greg. And I was kind of a little afraid of like what I was doing with the work. And like I was seeing them as giant sketches for something else. And then I was like, oh, this is the work. But I just didn't know that in the time. I was just like taking a chance. I think that's kind of when I like get into these moments. And it's really weird because both of the times that my work has shifted the most is right after, or like right before and right after Trump got elected. So like there's something that destabilizes my life in a very aggressive way that makes me respond. And maybe it's both a fear reaction and this like, yeah, it's you can fight or flight or make art. I think those are the where we're at.
Those are the options.
Yes, the answer is yes. I relate to everything. And I think, I don't know, as creators, it's like we want to stay with the edge of emergence, but our ego loves to be comfortable, right? It's like, I want to know what I'm doing. I want to be good. I want people to like me. But as a creator, it's like, actually, I want to stay where there's something coming through that's not known. I want to stay in discovery. So just that, I think, is part of the commitment. Like, I love Martha Graham's, like, keep the channel open. You don't even have to like your work. I take so much refuge there. Are you sure? But completely, like, my self-concept and the definition of myself and the way my work exists has changed multiple times. You wouldn't really recognize me from my 20s or 30s. And I appreciate that, because it's like I said a little bit, like, I needed to learn this and then I needed to learn this. But I spent like many years, I had a very public life in St. Louis, and there was a series of situations that changed everything. And in that time, it was a really dark, deep place. But that taught me how to metabolize and even court and love the darkness and what darkness teaches us. I mean, I think we're addicted to success in a way that nature doesn't do. Like, I have leaves. I'm dropping my leaves. Everything's decomposing. So I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. It doesn't always feel good. And when I'm in the middle of it, I'm not fine with it. But as I zoom out to the big picture of my life, those times are the most fertile.
That's beautiful.
This is a bit weird, but I went to China in 1988 to help with their very first cochlear implant. And one of the places they took me to was an art studio. And growing up in Windsor, Ontario, one of the motor cities, I actually worked as a student on the assembly line. They had an assembly line for beautiful pieces of artwork where there were 10, 12 people sitting at a table, and they would paint a few things and then pass it down. Next person would paint a few. And I'd never seen an assembly line for works of art. But they were all enjoying themselves, and they were all interacting in a very sociable way, and maybe doing something a little different each time. But it was just a bizarre experience for me to seeing these artists being creative, working together with some constraints, but it was just an amazing experience.
Can I ask you a question? Were they doing reproductions of other work, or were they making a an original work collectively?
I think they were doing the same thing. They would do, 30 or 40 of the same pieces, but I think it was original work.
Yeah. I'm into it. I don't know. I need to go and get like a Van Gogh. I've been to China twice, and I've heard about these factories that make these reproductions. And you can like a lot of corporate buyers will be like, I want this Pollock, like I want the one Peggy Guggenheim had upstairs, and they'll do it. They'll make it for you. There'll be a team of people, and they'll make these paintings. But it is cool to watch them do it. So I don't know. Just saying.
Yeah, any other questions? We still have time for more questions. Yeah, of course.
Lyndsey, can you tell us the day that all 200 of us are going to be showing up to sing together so nobody forgets to show up?
May 4th, Old Brick.
May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th.
Ooh, that's good. Well done.
All right, thanks, everyone. Oh, we have a question.
One more question. No, it's okay. Here.
Lyndsey brought up rituals, and I've been thinking about rituals lately and rituals around creativity. I'm wondering what kind of rituals you guys have cultivated just around your art and creativity and like getting in a creative headspace.
That's really cool. Mine's pretty simple. I think for me, and by ritual, I think about ritual as something that is kind of systematic and part of like my routine. And I think for me, where I live just outside of DC, I have like my house, and then I have my studio in my backyard. So I get up, I make my coffee, have my breakfast, walk to the backyard, put in some time in the studio, come back, eat lunch, go back, come have dinner. And so I think for me, coming here to Grant was kind of destabilizing that ritual in a lot of ways, or destabilizing that structure. And so it's a hard question to answer in a way that's not normally hard for me to answer because it's usually pretty consistent. But I think the kind of breaking down of that structure or destabilizing that mode of operation could become a new ritual. It could become a new way of thinking about the way that I approach my practice. Maybe it's more nomadic. Maybe it's not steeped in this, like clocking in, clocking out kind of mentality to the way that I've been making work before. But maybe it is about, moving around, meeting new people, having new experiences, and seeing how that engages with the work. And so I'd say that that's a developing ritual for me currently.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. I had very limited time. I taught in Lawrence. I lived in Kansas City, Missouri. Taught in Lawrence, Kansas. 45-minute drive. I taught 3 days a week, sometimes 4. Had to be there for meetings. So it was I had to regiment all of my studio time, and it was important that that studio time was there, and nothing could change that, and no one could touch that time. Now I have all the time in the world to be in studio, and it took me almost 3-4 weeks to find my footing to get into studio consistently when I got here, because there was just too much freedom. Now it's great. Now I got to go back to the real world at some point and have to regulate my studio time, and no, me neither. So it's hard. We still got to get a job that takes up my time. But I would love to. Iowa City's amazing. But yeah, and it's just making that space for that right now is easy, and so the having the rituals of studio it just looks different. It's hard to pin down exactly what I'm doing right now, but I'm doing it.
Couple different answers emerge. One is that so sometimes I catch songs and sometimes I carry other people's songs, but I like to physicalize them, no matter if they're mine or others. And so I have this giant janitor ring that I have color cardstock, and I write the songs. So as I'm learning them and practicing them, I write them because I'm a visual spatial memorizer. And then I also write the story of the song on the back, because this practice is very much oral tradition. And so when we sing a song, I didn't do it tonight. The last song I sang is by Butterfly Fish, a children's band. The first song, we don't know who it comes from, but the words are Leonard Cohen. I guess I did say that. So we try to
confer the lineage of the song and the story, because it's like songs kind of have the stamp of the time, space, energy where they were caught. So when we tell the story of the song, it also sort of brings that in. So that has more to do with like catching and memorizing. I do a lot of ritual in my life, and song is usually part of that. But it feels like you're asking about practice too. So one of the things that I'm noticing, I like to engage life as ceremony, and there's lots of different ways that looks. But in terms of the songlines practice, I have a map of Iowa City in my house, and I mark streets I walk down because I love maps and I love map drawings. And then I also have a map of people people that I've had personal engagement with, that there's some connection. I have a map of everyone I've met who I've connected with in Iowa City, and they live side by side. And then I notice when I'm out in the world, the map is not the terrain, and I see one of those people, like I notice the way the map is moving me, and I notice synchronicity. And that's part of my engagement with life as ceremony.
I think I tried telling you that you're a situationist.
I was like, what's that?
We'll unpack it later, but it's cool.
Thank you, everybody, so much for being here tonight. This was a really incredible event. Thanks.
One last thing.
Yes.
Our show is the reception for our show is the 24th of April. Yeah. So in the Visual Art Building. So. Yeah.
If anybody comes up with a cool saying for that, let me know, and I'll put it on Instagram.
I'll work on it.
But thank you.
Thanks so much, all three of you. Can you join me in thanking our...
Thank you so much for hosting us and for your questions.